Long ago, during the frozen age of the world, the nights were longer, darker, and filled with fear. Deep inside cold caves, the Neanderthals gathered close around weak fires. Their breath made clouds in the air, their eyes wide and alert. Outside, the wind screamed across empty valleys. But what truly frightened them were the heavy footsteps that sometimes echoed in the night. The Neanderthals were strong hunters. They knew every stone, every tree, every path of the forest. Yet lately, they had begun to sense another presence. Their sharp ears caught strange sounds, branches snapping under great weight, shadows larger than any beast moving at the edge of their vision. They whispered around the flames of giants, taller than men, stronger than bears. No one knew where these beings had come from. Some believed they were spirits of the mountains. Others said they were flesh and blood, hunting in silence, waiting for the right moment to strike. A simple mistake could mean death. If a fire burned too bright, the giants might see it. If a child cried too loud, they might hear. The Neanderthals learned to live half in darkness, half in silence. Every day felt like a battle against fear itself. This was the forgotten world of shadows, where survival was never promised. And each night, when the ground trembled, the Neanderthals knew one truth: something bigger was out there, and it was hunting them. For countless ages, Neanderthals were masters of the hunt. They moved through forests in silence, their stone-tipped spears sharp and ready. Mammoths, deer, and bison were their prey. They worked as a team, their minds clever, their bodies strong. To them, the land belonged to no one but the hunters, but everything began to change. The animals they tracked vanished before they could strike. Fresh kills disappeared, leaving only torn remains behind. Trails that once ended in prey now ended in giant footprints pressed deep into the soil. At first, they did not understand. Who else could hunt so quickly, so powerfully, that even mammoths seemed to fall without a struggle? Then the whispers spread, shadows taller than trees, figures moving in the distance. The Neanderthals watched from cliffs and saw the truth. Giants, towering humans, walking with spears longer than their bodies. The hunters were no longer the masters. They were being watched, followed, measured. Every path through the forest felt dangerous, every river crossing a trap. The giants hunted the same prey, but with greater strength, greater numbers. And sometimes the prey was not an animal. It was Neanderthal flesh. Fear grew in every cave. The Neanderthals realized the balance of power had shifted. The hunters of the world were slowly becoming the hunted. And deep inside, they knew this new enemy would not rest until the valleys were theirs alone. The night was quiet, too quiet. Neanderthals sat close around their fire, the warm glow pushing back the cold. Children slept against their mothers, and hunters sharpened their spears. Then from the darkness came a sound none had heard before, footsteps slow and heavy, pressing into the earth like drums of war. The hunters rose. Their eyes scanned the trees. Then out of the blackness shapes appeared. Huge figures stepped forward, taller than any man the Neanderthals had ever seen. Their shoulders were wide, their faces half hidden in shadow. And in their hands they carried spears longer than tree branches. The firelight revealed their size, giant humans with muscles that rippled like stone. The Neanderthals shouted warnings. Spears flew through the air. For a moment the giants staggered back, but their strength was unmatched. With a roar they struck. One swing of a massive spear shattered the defense of 3 hunters. The clash was brutal. Neanderthals fought with courage, moving fast, striking with all their skill. They used fire, they used stones, they used traps hidden in the earth. But for every wound they gave, they received worse in return. Blood stained the ground, and the cries of the wounded echoed through the valley. When the giants finally stepped back into the darkness, the Neanderthals knew the truth. They were not facing spirits or shadows. They were facing a living enemy, and the war for survival had just begun. After the first clash, the world of the Neanderthals changed forever. The caves that once felt safe now seemed like traps. Every flame, every spark could give them away. At night, they no longer sang or laughed. They sat in silence, staring into the dark, listening for the giants. The forest was no longer their home, but a place of fear. Strange sounds echoed after sunset, branches snapping, stones rolling, heavy breaths carried on the wind. Hunters swore they saw glowing eyes in the distance, watching from behind trees. Others spoke of giant shadows crossing the moonlit ground, silent but unstoppable. Mothers pressed hands over their children's mouths to keep them quiet. Fires were kept small or not lit at all, leaving families shivering in the cold. The giants had learned to move in silence, to follow tracks, to wait until the Neanderthals made one mistake. Sometimes whole hunting parties vanished, leaving only broken spears and blood on the snow. No one dared travel alone. Every step outside the caves felt like walking into a trap. The giants ruled the night, and the Neanderthals lived in constant dread of footsteps that might appear behind them. It was a world of shadows, where fear stretched longer than the darkness itself. And each sunrise was a fragile victory, proof that they had survived, at least for one more day. As the giants pressed deeper into the valleys, the Neanderthals had no choice but to retreat. One by one, the open forests and lowland caves were abandoned. Families carried what little they had: stone tools, scraps of meat, burning embers hidden in bark, and fled to the high, frozen mountains. Up there, among cliffs of ice and sharp rocks, they built their last strongholds. The paths were narrow, the winds cruel, but at least the giants' heavy steps could not easily reach them. For a time, the Neanderthals felt safe. They set traps along the cliffs, stored food in deep cracks, and lit only small, hidden fires. But survival grew harder with each passing season. Food was scarce. Hunters climbed down dangerous slopes only to find the animals gone, taken before them always by the giants. Hunger gnawed at their bellies. The cold cut deep into their bones. Children grew weak. Elders could no longer walk, and fear never left their eyes. Then came the signs that even the mountains were not safe. Great footprints pressed into snow where no giant should have walked. Echoes of heavy breathing drifted across frozen peaks at night. Sometimes strange shapes moved between the ridges, too large to be Neanderthal, too slow to be animal. The strongholds that were meant to protect them had become cages, and high on those lonely cliffs, the Neanderthals began to understand a bitter truth. There was no place left to hide. The mountain strongholds could not hold forever. One by one, the Neanderthal clans began to vanish. Some were hunted down by the giants, their caves left empty, their fires cold. Others simply disappeared into the frozen silence, leaving behind only footprints that ended in the snow. Stories spread among the survivors. Some whispered that the giants had destroyed them all. Others believed a few had escaped, slipping through secret valleys, traveling far across lands no one had ever seen. Were they gone forever? Or had they found a new home, hidden beyond the reach of the giants? Strange discoveries added to the mystery. Bones of Neanderthals were found mixed with the bones of taller humans. Children were born with faces that looked half like one people and half like another. Did the giants wipe them out completely, or did they take something from them and carry it forward? The truth was never clear. Fires went out, voices fell silent, and the once strong tribes of the Neanderthals slowly faded from history. Yet the question remained: was it true extinction or a secret escape? As the last survivors looked out from their icy cliffs, they faced two paths: vanish into the shadows forever, or leave behind traces hidden deep in the blood of those who came after. Either way, the Neanderthals' world was ending, and a new age was about to begin. Though the Neanderthals disappeared, their memory never truly faded. Across the world, strange stories began to rise. In dark caves, in lonely mountains, people whispered of giants who once hunted smaller tribes. They told of battles in the snow, of shadows that walked like men, but towered like trees. Generations later, the myths grew stronger. In some lands, the giants became ogres who ate humans. In others, they were wild men of the forest, huge and cruel. Children were warned not to wander at night, for the great hunters might still be waiting in the dark. Could these tales be the echoes of a forgotten war? Perhaps the stories of monsters, trolls, and giants all come from the same ancient memory, the clash between Neanderthals and the towering humans who hunted them. Bones in the earth, scars in old caves, and whispers in folklore seem to carry fragments of that truth. Even today, explorers sometimes find massive footprints in deep valleys or hear strange cries in the wilderness. Science may say the Neanderthals are gone, but legends remind us of another possibility. Maybe some survived. Maybe the giants too never fully disappeared. As night falls, the old fear returns. The wind howls across the mountains, the forests grow silent, and one thought lingers: what if those ancient hunters still walk among us, hidden in the shadows of the world?